So if you think about the government of any individual country, it has obligations to its citizens. It spends on things like, could be Social Security, could be investment to support growth, could be healthcare, could be defense spending, so there are all kinds of needs that a government has to fund. And partly that can be done through, say, tax revenues, right, on the corporate sector, on households. That raises revenues to support government spending. But in the event of an imbalance, and that is typically the case because governments don't have unlimited revenues, they will issue debt. And that debt could be in the form of government bonds, it can be other types of liabilities. But the level of debt incurred by a government, it's usually looked at relative to gross domestic product, to GDP. So debt to GDP is a statistic we think about all the time. That can come in different levels. You could have a 60% debt to GDP level. That's fairly typical for a global economy. You could have a much higher debt to GDP levels, and there are countries that have, levels that are 150, 180, 200% of GDP. When debt starts becoming a problem is when government revenues aren't sufficient to keep that debt serviced, and it gets harder to issue new debt and more expensive. So government debt is both sort of a necessity, something that you really need to support government expenditures and the job that government has to do to support investment, jobs, growth. But it can also become a source of concern if levels get too high.